Greetings. Welcome to the today's lecture on entrepreneurship, business planning and international entrepreneurship. I am Dr. G. Shankara, Professor and Head of the Department, RR Institute of Technology, Bengaluru. In this lecture, we will discuss about what are all the things to start the business. What are all the factors to be addressed in starting the business? What are all the issues to be resolved while starting the business? Means basically how to plan the starting and operation of the entrepreneurship. Then we will also discuss about the international entrepreneurship opportunities. Opportunities for the entrepreneurs in the international arena. So the contents of this lecture are business planning process, marketing plan, financial plan, project report, feasibility study, guidelines for preparation of model project report for starting a new venture, introduction to international entrepreneurship opportunities, entry into international business, exporting, direct foreign investing and venture capital. So we will cover these issues in this lecture. Okay, let us come to the business planning process. A business plan is a blueprint of the step-by-step procedure that would be followed in order to convert a business idea into a successful business venture. So it is the planning process of what are all the procedures, steps, actions, sequence, operations that are going to be adopted in future to start the business venture and to make it a successful venture. So that is the blueprint. Business plan is a written summary of various elements involved in starting a new enterprise, of how the business will organize its resources to meet its goals and how it will measure the progress. So summary of all the what are all the resources available, how do you organize the resources, how do you plan the activities to meet the goals, and then how you will measure the progress, how you will make the corrections, evaluation. All these aspects are part of the business planning process. So what are all the tasks involved in business planning? Identifying business opportunities and an innovative idea. So an entrepreneur will start with first identifying what are all the opportunities available, then finalizing an idea, researching the external environment for opportunities and threats, identifying internal strengths and weakness. So you have to identify internal strengths and weakness and external environment in the society, in the market, what are all the opportunities and threats. Assessing the feasibility of that idea, whether that idea will help you in achieving your objective. So that is it practicable, is it feasible? Allocating resources in the best possible manner. What are the objectives of a business plan? To how it will help an entrepreneur to give direction to the vision of entrepreneur, to objectively evaluate the future prospects of the business, not with a bias, objectively evaluating the prospects, the success, the opportunities, threats of the business, to monitor the progress after implementation of the plan, to seek loans from financial institutions. You have to prepare a business plan and submit to them, to facilitate the decision making process. During the course of time, several decisions has to be made. You will come across various alternative options to select a feasible option is very important in further progress. So a business plan will help in decision making process. To persuade others to join the business as a partners or as employees or as your suppliers, as your vendors, all they also require what exactly your plan they want to see. To identify strengths and weakness present in the internal environment, to identify opportunities and threats in the external environment, to assess the feasibility of the business. So these are all the objectives of a business plan. What are its importance for a entrepreneur? Why he should prepare a business plan? What are its how it will help him? To help you with critical decisions, to iron out the kinks. So any twist turns that will come across, any unaddressed or unknown issues, all those things, it can be sorted out using the, it will help you in sorting out those unforeseen uncertain events in the future, to avoid the big mistakes, any which are likely to occur, because big mistakes can spoil entire business plan or your venture very drastically. It can influence, like lack of capital, inadequate team, stiff competition, pricing. All these things are factors which can make or break your enterprise. So those things can be thought of initially, and a plan can be prepared to address those issues. To prove the viability of the business, whether the business will give you the required profits, will you get break even or not, and when you will get. To get an idea about that, complete assessment of those things, a business plan will help. To set better objectives and benchmarks, to communicate objectives and benchmarks, your objectives and benchmarks of your plan, your enterprise, your idea, to the your financial institutions which want to support you, the government agencies which need to give you permission, land, material supply, all those things. Then to your investors who want to join your business, to your employee, all these things you can communicate the your ideas. To provide a guide for service providers, to secure financing, to better understand the broader landscape of the environment and your where your business idea exactly fit into the external market, a broader landscape. To reduce risk, risk is the uncertainty which will be there in all the enterprises, because enterprise has to face so many social, political, commercial aspects, competitions, prices, rules, regulations, so many things. So a business plan will help you in reducing or mitigating the risk. So these are all the various methods a business plan will help the entrepreneur. That is why it is very important for a entrepreneur to make a business plan. Then what are all the various steps involved in the business plan? How to prepare it? What are all the steps you have to consider and prepare? Preliminary investigation, idea generation, see the sketch on the right side, environment scanning, feasibility analysis, drawing functional plans, project report preparation, evaluation, review and control. So these are all the various 7 steps involved in preparing the business plan. Preliminary investigation. In order to create an effective plan, an entrepreneur must review available business plans, draw key business assumptions on which plan is based, scan the environment for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats, seek professional advice and conduct a functional audit. So these are all the preliminary investigations one should do. Okay, about the what are all the product or service you want to start, release, into the market. Is such products are already available, services? What are all the business plans of such companies? Okay, like that, all these things preliminary. What is the scope? What is the how much it can enter? How much it can penetrate? Okay, where you want to where is the scope for your business? So all these things preliminary investigation must be done. Then idea generation. It involves generation, screening, selection of a new concept, product, service, or value addition to an existing products or service. You need not always make a new product or service. If there are some deficiencies in the existing products in the market or existing services, you can modify, revise to make it attractive to the customers. So that can also be an entrepreneurial venture. So idea you need to generate about what product you want to go for a new product or you want to go for a modification. So what product, what is the market is lacking, all those things. Then environment scanning should be done. The internal and external environment must be analyzed to study the prospective strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of the business and understand the supportive and obstructive factors related to the business enterprise. See, every state, every country, every society have some rules and regulations. So how those rules and regulations, how the culture, what are all the habits, what are all the gender, their age group, all those things you should understand. So that is the scanning of the external environment, whether your business will progress or not. Then external environment, socio-cultural appraisal, technological appraisal, economic appraisal, demographic, government appraisal. Internal environment, in the scanning you should do external environment scanning as well as internal environment scanning. In the internal environment scanning means availability of raw materials, availability of machinery, tools, equipment required for production, means of finance, assessment of market, cost, quantity and quality of human resources required. Whether all these things are available sufficiently, where they are available, from where you have to get all these things. So this is the scanning of the internal environment. Then feasibility analysis. Feasibility analysis is done to find out whether the proposed project will be feasible or not. The various variables that are studied include market analysis, technical or operational analysis, and financial analysis. A feasibility analysis should be done whether the proposed project, whether it is a product or a service, is feasible or not. Will it be break even? Will it generate profits or not? So that should be also be analyzed. Drawing functional plans. Okay, now it is decided to go ahead with this one. Then functional process, how to get the resources, labor, money, material, how to organize, how to launch the product, how to marketing the product, all these things. If the feasibility plan gives a positive indication, a draft business plan is formulated. It involves preparation of the marketing plan, production operation plan, organizational plan, financial plan, and human resources planning. Then project report preparation. So after all these things done, you should make a report which consists of all these issues in detail. It is a written document that describes step by step the stages involved in starting and operating a business. Evaluation, review, and control. So once the business starts working, it should be the progress, the quality aspects, the financial aspects, all these things should be evaluated and reviewed, and if it is deviating from the goals, from the prescribed route, it should be controlled and bring back to the original route. So these are all the various steps. Those procedures also. How to evaluate your business, when you want to review your business, how you want to control your business. All these things should be mentioned. So these are all the various steps involved in preparing or planning a business plan. Next topic is marketing plan. It is also part of a business plan. Marketing plan is very important for any business. Marketing plan aims at planning the marketing strategies for a company. Marketing plan is blueprint for the activities related to communication of the messages about your products or services or your business as general to your customers or potential customers. So this is a plan basically prepared to communicate about your products, your services, its quality, its features, its characteristics, its advantages, its pricing, all these things to communicate to the customers or potential customers, would be customers in future, to attract all of them and to keep as your loyal customers. Components of a marketing plan are products and services offered. You should describe what are all the products or services you are going to launch and offer. Pricing policies. What is the price of your promotional strategies? How to promote your products, advertisements, marketing, all those things. Logistics for distribution. You should make a plan for how you plan to distribute the product on your own or with your own vehicles, or you want to engage some companies, something like that. All those things. Logistics for distribution and channels for distribution. You want to sell through your own outlets, or you want to give it to some retail shops, local shops, like that. The channels of distribution should also be mentioned in the plan. Marketing plan. So all this is marketing plan is your product should reach from your factory to the final customer, how it will reach. Okay, so these are all about the marketing plan. So it is very important. We will see what is exactly some important points, how it is important to a marketing planning promotes successful marketing operations, because whatever product or service you have launched, it should reach to the final customer and it should generate revenue to your enterprise. So for that, the features, its characteristics, its size, its color, its quality, its advantages, its prices, all these things should be planned. How you distribute. So it is very important. Planning helps to coordinate activities which can facilitate the attainment of objectives. It forces market plan management to reflect upon the future in a systematic way. Marketing planning helps to appraise performance, capitalize on strength, minimize weaknesses and threats, finally open up new opportunities also. So once you start doing the marketing of the products or services, you will collect the feedback, you will evaluate its success, and through modifications you can reach out to the new places, new potential customers. Marketing planning reduces the adverse consequences of unfavorable circumstances beyond the influence of the management. It promotes a comprehensive view of the business plan and acts as a process of communication. A greater preparedness to accommodate change can be stimulated. So by preparing the plan, any unforeseen changes or to the taste and fashion or demands in the market, those changes can be addressed if there is a proper planning. What are the characteristics of market planning? Is the success depends to a large extent upon human behavior and response. Finally, how the customers and how your employees, your dealers, how they behave, how they respond, that will be the main focus and influencing point for a success of your enterprise. They are complicated in nature. Marketing decisions have long-term effects on efficiency, profitability, and market standing. So it should be very seriously to be planned, discussed and planned, because it makes or breaks your enterprise. Marketing planning is a formal and systematic approach towards planning of all marketing activities like product positioning, price setting, distribution channels, etc. It is a rational activity, requires thinking, imagination, and foresight. Market analysis, market projection, consumer behavior analysis, market guided conclusions are based on data and measurements drawn from internal and external environment. So it is a rational activity, not a emotional, not a intuitive activity. So based on the data and of the internal and external environment, and a careful study and analysis of all the factors will make the plan. Marketing planning is a forward-looking and dynamic process designed to promote market-oriented or consumer-oriented business actions. Then what are all the steps in preparing a market plan? You have to do the market research. Then about the market, like what? Collection, analysis and interpretation of data, like size of the market, how many people are going to buy your products. Consumer demographics, what are the various age groups in the consumers. Consumer preferences, now what they are using, why they like that one, what are the problems. So you should understand their likes and dislikes, etc. And you have to make these corresponding strategies. Segmentation, it is the process of dividing the market into groups of people with similar characteristics or behavior. So you should do the segmentation of analysis of your market. That means you should able to distinguish various groups in the market based on either their age or based on their gender, based on their income, based on their occupation, based on their lifestyle, based on their location, north, south, based on their loyalty, etc. All these things you should be able to make a groups, so you can focus better on those groups. Segmentation. Then targeting, market targeting, it is the process of evaluating different segments and identifying the number and type of segment a company wants to target. Potential opportunities and threats from competitors, from suppliers, from buyers, from government, selecting single or multiple, all these factors comes under market targeting. Then market positioning, you want to be in the number 1 position, number 2 position, or number 10 position, what position you want to be. So that is what you should decide. It is the act of positioning the product or your product or service in such a way that it appears attractive to the customers, and image of the company, product life cycle, pricing strategy, all these plays in positioning your product in the market. Developing marketing mix strategies. It is the task of preparing product, price, place and promotional strategies for a business. The different types of product, branding and packaging, labeling, safety of the product, levels of distribution channels, means from manufacturer, wholesaler, who are the wholesalers, distributors, retailers, customers, then advertising, direct marketing, all these strategies you should plan in the marketing plan. Budgeting the marketing strategies. Then because all these activities require human resources, they require some machinery, some tools, all these things, so everything every strategy requires some finance, budget. So allocation of budget for various marketing strategies. Like cost of market research, how much money should be spent on the research, product development cost, cost of sales and promotion, cost of distribution. So a proper and reasonable, efficient allocation of budget should be done for all these activities. Implementing, monitoring and reviewing of the market plan. After implementing the market strategies, performance standards or benchmarks must be set in order to evaluate the market plan against expected results. Monitoring involves constant analysis of the following: market share data, sales figures, consumer feedback, feedback from retailers. All these things should be properly collected and processed and analyzed, and a review and control action should be taken. Executive summary. The last step is to summarize the entire marketing plan. So these are all the various steps involved for a successful marketing plan, which is an essential element for the success of the enterprise. Next is financial plan. There are other plans also, but here we are discussing mainly marketing plan and financial plan. Other plans are there like material plan, resources plan, processing, all those things. What is financial plan? Finance is one of the most important prerequisites to establish an enterprise. This is all of you know, finance should be there for every day-to-day activity. So very important role it plays in the enterprise. Then what is financial? Availability of finance facilities the entrepreneur to bring together men, material, machines and methods to produce goods and services. So to organize, procure all these men, material, machines, and to start and distribute your product services, you require a lot of finance. The entrepreneur should develop a sound financial plan explaining financial requirements, how much finances are required, sources of raising funds, if there is not sufficient funds are available on his own, then how to raise the fund, from where that sources, and exact assessment of the revenue, cost, profits, cash flow dynamics, stock of inventory, loans. All these things should be thoroughly discussed and planned in the financial plan. So basically it consists of your revenues, your expenditure, and what are all the sources of funding. Revenue, so see the picture, revenue, what are all the funds you require, what is the revenue you are going to generate, who will be the investors or financing your enterprise. Importance of financial plan. Financial plan also plays very important role in the enterprise. It has several important features. Ensuring you have adequate funds to keep the doors open. Help you ensure you have adequate income to meet the expenses of the business. Focuses future growth plans. So how you want to grow or expand your enterprise, enter into new markets, attract new potential customers. So what are all the funds required for that? What are all the revenues you will get from that? So that all plans also should come under financial plan. Provides a measure of peace of mind when facing economic uncertainty. So as you have studied, planning reduces the uncertainty. A proper financial plan will address the issue of uncertainty. Help ensure stability of the company. Promote and direct future growth. Having a current financial plan is a crucial tool in your arsenal that can propel your business towards success. Then what are all the components of a financial plan? What are all the various issues, components, topics that should be covered in the financial plan? Pro forma investment decisions. Okay, where you will invest your finances, how much you will in various different assets like land, buildings, machinery, plant, margin for working capital, etc. So the finances, where exactly the enterprise want to invest in various all these assets. Then financing decisions. This section summarizes the projected sources of funds available to the venture to raise finance. Okay, in the investment decisions, where to invest the finance, where to spend your money, that means where to spend your money in under which various heads. Now, from where you will get that money comes under financing decisions. Is it owners funds or outsiders? That is borrowed funds. The entrepreneur's job is to ensure the selection of the less risky, more profitable finance for the enterprise. So you shall not, when you are going for a borrowing, you should see that the risk is very less. Then pro forma income statement. About your revenues. Pro forma income statement is the projected net profit calculated from projected revenue minus projected cost and expenses. Basically, it summarizes all the profit data during the first year of operations of the new enterprise. Then pro forma cash flow. Pro forma cash flow reflects the proposed cash available with the enterprise as a result of subtracting projected cash disbursements from the projected cash accumulation. Because liquidity, cash should be there in the company to meet various expenditures. So what is the cash will be available, you will get by deducting the expenses, cash expenses from the cash revenues. Cash flows only when actual payments are received or made. Okay, not on the paper, not future. When actual cash is received only, you will get the cash flow. Then pro forma balance sheet. This document helps the enterprise to reflect the position of the business at the end of the financial year. Whether the company is in profit or loss is verified or available in the balance sheets. How much profit or how much loss. A summary of projected assets, liabilities, net worth of the entrepreneur is depicted through pro forma balance sheet. So it will show entire your assets and your liabilities. Break-even point is that level of volume of production at which firm neither makes a profit nor a loss. So that also should be calculated. What exactly is your product, the volume of your product or the volume of your service you should able to do, so that to sell the products so in so much quantity, then only you will get the break-even point. That means there is no loss, no profit in the enterprise. That is called break-even point. Then economic and social variables also should be included. What are they? So how your project will help in generating employment, utilization of local resources, development of industrial or the residential area in that locality. So these are all the other social and economic factors because of your enterprise, how it will influence the society. This also should be mentioned in the financial plan. So financial plan consists of all the above contents. Once all the plans, sub-plans are ready, like marketing plan, financial plan, resource plan, material planning, human resources planning, all these plans are ready, then a project report consisting of all these plans should be prepared. Let us see what is a project report. A project report is a detailed plan of action and particulars about the proposed project. Detailed plan of action. It is one kind of a course of action about what the entrepreneur is to achieve in his business and how is he going to achieve it. So all the issues should be mentioned in detail. Project report will be prepared for a plan of action to be undertaken, which covers various aspects like technical, financial, marketing, management and social planning. All these different plans and what are all the different issues, different action, all these things should be, to cover all these things, they should be mentioned in the project report. It is a technical study of the proposed project and conclusion can be drawn about its feasibility, viability. The promoter's capacity, competence will also reflect in the project report. So who are all the promoters? Means who are all the entrepreneurs, who are investors in this one? What is their competency? Are they experienced in this? What is their educational qualification? What is their experience in such a type of industry? What is their other social behavior? All these things should be included in the project report. So it will indicate all this about the promoters' competencies also, capacity and competencies. Information in project report consists of various subheadings: introduction to project and industry, industry position in the world scenario, industry position in the country, value addition by the industry, and profile of the industry in the country. All these things, what exactly the position of such a product or service in the world market, in the global market, where it is available, where it is used, how much it is used, what are all the shortage in that, what are all the deficiency in there. Similarly, at your national level, at your state level, okay, then what value you are going to add to the industry, then profile of the industry in the country. Project details: promoters, registered office where you will locate, location of the factory where you will start your factory, line of activity, background of directors, land and site development, building and civil works, plant and machinery. What are the plant and machinery you are to want to keep in your plant, in your business, how you procure them, what will be its cost, all these details. Utilities, what you want to provide utilities in your business, like other housing facilities, transport facilities, health facilities, drinking water facilities to your employees and all those things, other utilities. Then miscellaneous fixed assets and vehicles, you want to use your own vehicles for transporting or distribution of your goods, etc. All these things should be mentioned in project details. Then raw material details. If you are as a product manufacturing company, so you require definitely raw materials. So you should mention all the details about the raw materials, like requirement of raw materials, situation of raw material availability indigenously, feasibility of import of raw materials if they are not available within the country, areas from which raw material can be procured. Is that whether you have to procure from your state, from different districts, or from different states? Suppliers of raw materials, who are the suppliers, annual requirement, how much you require, its price, its cost, all those things should be mentioned in the raw materials details. Similarly, utility details: power, steam, fuel, water, effluent, waste disposal related to your product. There should be also how much, what is the electricity you require, what is the steam if you require, fuel, water, effluent, how you are going to dispose the effluent, etc. Technical details should be mentioned. What are the plant capacity, capacity utilization, then manufacturing process flow chart, plant layout, product description, packaging and its cost, technical know-how, plant and machinery details and support, etc. All this should be mentioned. Similarly, manpower details, financial details, marketing details, all these things should be part of the a detailed comprehensive project report. Then evaluation of the project from social angle also should be incorporated. Analysis of critical factors, socio-economic benefits because of this venture, labor availability, impact on ecology, foreign exchange earnings or spending. You require how much foreign exchange or how much foreign exchange you are going to generate. Value addition, import substitution, because of your enterprise, your product, can the country reduce importing that product from other countries? Because we import so many goods, so many materials, etc. So if your factory or your product addresses that issue, those things should be highlighted. So the company will submit the copies of the detailed project report to banks, financial, other support institutions for their participation in the scheme of finance and also for working capital requirement of the project. It should be given to all the financiers, government, and for permission, etc. So that is the a project report and its various components. Next is feasibility study should be done. It is also part of the project report or starting of the project, actually starting of the business plan. Feasibility study is starting of the business plan. A feasibility study is a first step. It is a first step in exploring a new business idea. It can be instrumental in fleshing out a business idea as well as determining if further investment into the idea is warranted, can be done or not. In short, it provides a framework by which a go or no go decision can be reached, whether to proceed with this idea, with this enterprise, whether we will get a break even or not, or shall we stop this idea and search for some other idea, is addressed by preparing this feasibility study. Role of feasibility analysis in developing business ideas is shown here. So, proposed business venture, spending the time and resource necessary to move forward with the business plan depends upon product service feasibility, whether that product can be made, whether that product has a demand in the market, whether the raw materials are available, whether the product price, whether within the available resources and budget we can make. So product service feasibility analysis, industry market feasibility analysis, organizational, what are all the organizational structure you require and is all the resources required for that organization available, financial feasibility. So all these feasibility studies are the different components of the total final feasibility study. Once all these feasibility studies reports outcomes of these different sub feasibility studies says yes in all four areas, then proceed with the business plan. If not in one or more areas, in any one of these things you say no, product or the service doesn't have feasibility, industry, market, this enterprise or this industry doesn't have the feasibility, organizational. So any of these things you say no, then drop that idea or rethink your business plan. So that is the importance of the feasibility study. That's what importance is mentioned here. Areas of study. So it consists of, as you told, different subplans. Technical feasibility, 5 types of feasibility study mainly. Technical feasibility means what? Determine whether the business has the technical expertise and resources to handle the project. So every product or service requires some technical expertise, whether that expertise is available with you or the experts are available within your reach. Similarly, whether raw material is available, whether the plant and machinery technology is available for that. So that is the technical feasibility. Hardware is available or not, software is available for this, all these things. Then economic feasibility. This assessment is to determine the viability, cost and benefits associated with a project before the financial resources are allocated, whether what are all the expenditure, what are all the revenues likely to get and whether it will generate the profits or not. That is the economic feasibility. Then legal feasibility also important. Assessment helps to determine whether the proposed project conflicts with the legal requirements of its country of operation, because every country has some rules and regulations, and it encourages some products, it discourages or even ban some products. So your product or service whether meets the legal requirements of the country is prepared in legal feasibility. Operational feasibility measures how a well proposed project solves the problems, takes advantage of the opportunities identified during scope definition. It focuses on the degree to which the proposed project fits with the existing business environment. Whether the operational activities can be taken up or not, and whether they will be successful or not shall be studied under operational feasibility. Then scheduling feasibility. This is the most important assessment for the success of the project. After all, a project will fail if not completed in time again. So that the time and scheduling also very important in the feasibility study. It is a measure of how reasonable the project timetable. Typically, this means estimating how long a project takes to develop. So you have to, if all your investors, your banks, your financiers, everybody want to start the operations in a year, but whether you can do it, whether resources available, whether technology available, whether finance available, all this will make you the schedule whether you can make it in 1 year, because it is delayed, the expenditure will be more and the profits will not start till the completion of the project. So it will make a big problem for the entrepreneur. So all these feasibility subplan should be prepared and consolidated into a overall feasibility study, which will help you in making a decision whether this plan will work or not, whether we shall go or no go with this idea. That is the feasibility study. So what is a business plan versus feasibility study? There are some similarities, there are some dissimilarities. Similarities: timing. Both are initially done before the business opens and can be conducted again later to determine the next steps on future idea. Both are done before starting the business and in between also before expansion, etc. Again, these two can be done. Input. Both includes input from several individuals or departments that have different skills. Format. Both include other documents that are pulled together in order to compose the report. They have formats are mentioned, so it requires various subplans each one. So all those things should be compiled and consolidated into a complete report. Components. Some of the issues analyzed are similar, including examining the target market, market conditions, and financial costs. These are common to both reports, both business plan and feasibility study. Uses. Both help the organization's management make decisions and can also be shown to potential customers. Then what are the differences between these two? Purpose. Feasibility studies determine whether to go ahead with the business or with another idea, whereas business plans are designed after the decision to go ahead has already been made. So feasibility study is done initially whether to go with this idea or not. Once it is decided that we will go with this idea, then business plan is prepared. Okay, that is the purpose. Methodology. Essentially, feasibility studies are research projects, whereas business plans are projections for the future. It consists of operational and other marketing, all other plans. Risks. Feasibility studies determine the risk associated with the idea, whereas business plan explains how management will deal with the risk so that it will make a profit. So what are all the risks involved with this idea is discussed in feasibility. Then what are all the challenges during the operation execution of the organization of the entrepreneur, how to overcome those risks are mentioned in the business plan. Cost. Feasibility studies can require hiring outside professionals with expertise who will conduct thorough studies, whereas business plans are written by the employees of the business or part of their job. Okay, then so these are all the various similarities and differences between a feasibility study and a business plan. Next, guidelines for preparation of model project report for starting a new venture. Okay, so we have studied that after making a business plan and its various components, once to go with the idea, all the feasibility study, everything should be compiled into a project report. So what are all its, how to prepare the report, what are all its exact various subheadings, contents of the report are like this. Title page should be there. Then title page will cover the project title, name of the lead organization and partners if any, place and date of the project preparation, and the name of the donor agency to whom the proposal is addressed. Then project title. Project title should be short, concise, and preferably refer to a certain key project result or the leading project activity. Title should be related to the project activity. It cannot be some arbitrary, some fancy names cannot be put as titles. Abstract executive summary should be mentioned in the beginning so that everybody who are interested first will go through it and assess the strength of the idea or enterprises. Context. This part of project describes the social, economic, political and cultural background from which the project is initiated. It should contain relevant data from research carried out in the project planning phase or collected from other sources. So that gives you the context. Then project justification should be done. Why? A rationale should be provided for the project due to its importance. This section is sometimes divided into 4 or more subsections. Problem statement, priority needs, proposed approach, type of intervention, the implementing organization, project aims, etc. So all these things should be thoroughly discussed to justify the project. Target group should be identified. Project implementation procedure should also be included in the project report. The implementation plan should be describe activities and resources allocation in as much detail as possible. Budget. An itemized summary of an organization is expected income and expenses over a specified period of time. So a budget should be prepared and incorporated into the project report. Monitoring and evaluation. The proposed project proposal should indicate how and when the project management team will conduct activities to monitor the progress. Then reporting. Schedule of project progress and financial report could be set in the project proposal. Reporting should also be a part. When reports should be prepared, dashboard should be prepared, whom they should be addressed, how frequently they should be prepared, whom are all they should be communicated, so that reporting procedures and distribution, channeling, all those things should be included. Similarly, the method of reporting, whether through mails or through other sources, Other routes should also be mentioned. Management and personnel. A brief description should be given of the project personnel, the individual roles each one has assumed, and the communication mechanism that exists between them. A complete description about the management team should be also be given in the project report. Means various levels of in the people in the management and their communication mechanism. All these things are the contents of a very good model project report. Generally, the financial institutions and other supporting institutions, they mention what should be the contents of the report, and it should be prepared according to their demand. More tips to write a successful proposal. Some tips are given. There are many more tips. Plan ahead. Make it a team effort. Don't do it alone. A brainstorming session should be done, and it should be a team. Everybody in the team should contribute it. Be realistic. Be a learning organization. Be factual and specific. Don't write some fancy stories and all those things. Don't talk in generalities or in emotional terms. Be sure to substantiate all statements in your proposal. Otherwise, don't make them. Limit technical and organizational jargon. Use language anyone will understand. No abbreviations, initials, or other jargon. Don't assume that the reader will understand your acronyms or abbreviations, and also make sure to include an acronyms page. Okay, so use the simple, technical, and which is common to the organization. Don't avoid the unnecessary or confusing or complex terminology and statements, etc. So these are all the various contents of the model report and some tips to prepare a model report. Okay, so far we have seen how to make a business plan to start a new venture, and in the previous lectures we have seen the various opportunities, various supporting schemes, characteristics, problems, everything related to the entrepreneur. Now go to the international entrepreneurship opportunities. What are all the opportunities in the international market for the entrepreneurs? International entrepreneurship is the process of an entrepreneur conducting business activities across national boundaries, doing the business in foreign countries or other countries beyond the national boundaries. International entrepreneurs are the industries that cross the national border. It may consist of exporting, licensing, opening a sales office in another country, opening subsidiaries, manufacturing, or joint ventures with other countries, organizations, and development of the business. So all this comes under the entrepreneur internship. So there are some they are also called as, if it is operating in many countries, it is called as multinational companies. So some well-known international entrepreneurship businesses are Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Tata Motors, Infosys, etc. They have all their offices are located in countries outside their national boundaries. So why we should look at international entrepreneurship? It has certain advantages. Large markets beyond home country borders. So not only your country, you have a big market in the global scenario, your products can be sold into. Improvements in technologies, quality, and operation. So we are going internationally, your quality, your technology, everything should be at a higher level. Extending the life of the product cycle. Challenges in doing business in a competitive environment. So in other countries already there may be a competition. So as an international brand, you should compete with the local or other international brands. Earning foreign exchange for the organization and the country. Reputation enhancement. If your company is involved in the international entrepreneurship, its products have a much demand in the local market also. Greater motivation in new opportunities. Then what are all the challenges? Is it only advantages? No, there are some challenges. Language problem, it will be there. In different countries, different languages are used. Cultural differences will be there. Rules and regulations, laws, etc. are different in different countries. International business structure is different in various countries. Strategies will be different. Financial challenges will be there. Accounting practices are different. Political risks are there. The government, if changes there frequently or whatever it may be, so it may create problem to the business. Environmental issues are there. Different countries, some countries have very strict environmental rules, so it can be a challenge. And human resources, the technical, the skilled labor, skilled personal availability, etc., and their cost, their salaries, all those things need to be addressed. It can be a challenge. So there is a comparison shown here: domestic versus global entrepreneurship. Let us see. Area of operation is within the country. International business is whole world. The domestic business deals with single currency, whereas international business deals with multiple currencies. Restrictions in the international business, there are few. In the national business, in the domestic business, restrictions can be few. In the international business, there can be many restrictions. Nature of customers, in case of domestic business, they will be homogeneous, means having more or less some same taste, same habits, same culture, something like that. But international means you are going to be a very heterogeneous group of customers. Mobility of factors of production will be free in case of domestic. Generally, all state governments allow movement from one state to other, free movement, whereas international means there are so many restrictions, so many licenses, so many permits, all this comes into picture. So that is the difference between domestic business and international business. Then how to entry into international business? What are all the various gateways? What are all the various windows to enter? What are the various methods to enter into the international business? But for that, we should consider first various factors which influence this entry, like country specific factor. Every country has its own laws, regulations, infrastructural conditions, property rights, legal framework, political factors, cultural factors. So all these should be thoroughly analyzed, understand before entering into an international business. Industry specific factors. Entry and exit barriers, there will be some rule about that. Industrial complexity, uncertainty in the industrial environment, supply and distribution pattern, all these things should be considered as industry specific factors related to your industry in which you are going to operate. Then firm specific factors related to the company level. Resources of the firm, technological risk goals, objectives of the firm, experience of the firm. These things will decide the international entrepreneurship of a company. Related to the individual firm, what are all your resources? Are you have a hardware, software, tools, your human resources, all are there ready for entering into the international business. What about your own thinking, your capacity, your competencies also plays a role, your experiences. Project specific factors: size of the project, project orientation, availability of raw material, labor required for project implementation, availability of suitable market for the project. So these are all project specific factors that also will influence the international business. So all these factors should be thoroughly analyzed, evaluated, and understand for to enter the international business. Then what are the methods or modes of entry into foreign market? It can be through exporting. It is the process of selling goods and services produced in one country to other country. Exporting may be direct or indirect. The goods are manufactured in the one country and they are exported through various modes of transportation to another country. That is called exporting business. Then joint venture. It is a strategy used by the companies to enter a foreign market by joining hands and sharing ownership and management with another domestic company in that country. So, if you want to enter into a foreign country, you can see a suitable organization company there, a business enterprise there, and you can join as a partner in that company. That is joint venture. Outsourcing. It is a cost effective strategy used by the companies to reduce costs by transferring portions of work to outside suppliers rather than completing it internally. Because some countries have advantages in the form of labor, in the form of their skilled resources, cheap resources, availability of cheap land, cheap power, good transportation network. So because of those things, you can outsource, you can share your business, some activities you can distribute to them. That is called the outsourcing. It includes both domestic and foreign contracting and also offshoring, relocating a business function to another country. These in India we call them as BPO and KPO, business process outsourcing and knowledge process outsourcing. So many companies are doing outsourcing work for various foreign countries like and banks, legal outsourcing, engineering outsourcing, medical outsourcing, like that. It is there in almost all walks of business. Then franchising. It is a system in which a semi-independent business owners, franchises pay fees and royalty to a parent company in return for their right to be identified by its trademark, to sell its products or services, and often to use its business format or system. So franchisee, taking the franchisee of another business and using that trade name, their technology, etc., and making business here. So if you see many this McDonald, Pizza Hut, these are all the franchises taken by our Indians of the American companies. They are all the franchises. Turnkey project. It involves the delivery of operating industrial plant to the client without any active participation. A company pays a contractor to design and construct new facilities and train personnel to export its process and technology to another country. That is called turnkey project. Do start the complete the commission from the starting of the project to the commissioning and launching of the product. Everything is done by another company of another country. That is called and then hand over to the local domestic company. That is turnkey projects. Then foreign direct investment. It is a mode of entering foreign market through investment. Investment may be direct or indirectly through financial institutions. It can be done by purchasing shares of a company, property, and assets. It is something like joint ventures only. So, entering with a partnership in the business of other countries. In India, we have like that so many Maruti Suzuki, Hero Honda, all these are like foreign direct investment and joint ventures. Mergers and acquisitions. Merger is a combination of two or more distinct entities into one. So, two or more companies are joined or amalgamated or merged into a single company, that is called merger. Merging entities cease to be in existence and merge into a single servicing entity. So all these merge into a single name. They are different names before merging. After merging, all the companies will have only one name. It can be existing name or it can be a new name. Acquisition implies acquisition of controlling interest in a company by another company. It does not lead to dissolution of company whose shares are acquired. It may be a friendly or hostile acquisition or a bailout takeover. So in this, the companies will be distinct only, but the major control is taken. For example, our Flipkart is now acquired by the Flipkart in India is acquired by the Walmart for their expansion into India. So Flipkart is there, name itself is there. Flipkart, it is the doing, Walmart is doing in India business in the name of Flipkart only. Like that, that is comes under acquisition. Then other methods are licensing. Licensing is a method in which a firm gives permission to a person to use its legally protected product or technology and to do business in a particular manner for an agreed period of time and within an agreed territory. Then contract manufacturing. When a foreign firm hires a local manufacturer to produce their product or a part of their product, it is known as contract manufacturing. So some parts is produced here. Some car company in the foreign country, they want their components, some components to be made in some other country because of its land availability, labor availability, etc. That comes under contract manufacturing. Then strategic alliance. It is a voluntary formal agreement between two companies to pool their resources to achieve a common set of objectives while remaining independent activities. So these are all the various methods of entering into foreign business, international business or international entrepreneurship. Now let us see what is the in detail about the exporting is a major one of the methods to enter into the international business. Exporting involves the sale of products manufactured in one country, often the home or domestic country by the company, to consumers in another country. For example, our cement is exported to many countries. Similarly, rice, sugar, wheat, oils. So many of products, cars, Tata Motors, Mahindra, they export their cars to other countries. Okay, so these are all the produced in one country and then transferred to another country for their sale is called exporting. Importance of export to the economy. The exporting industry plays very important role in the economic development also. How exports plays an important role, influence the level of economic growth, produce lot of employment, it generates employment and large role in the balance of payments. Balance of payments means we import some goods or services, for that we pay foreign exchange. So how to get that foreign exchange? By exporting our goods and services. So the net balance of foreign exchange, balance of trade, balance of payments can be balanced by promoting the export business. Benefits exporting can help your business. How it will help your business? We have already seen enhance domestic competitiveness, increases sales and profits, gain global market share, reduce dependence on existing markets, exploit corporate technology and know-how. So you will get because of the joint ventures, acquisitions, or in exporting to other countries, their technology, their skills, and all those things also you can adapt. So it will help in improving your technology, your quality, your competencies, etc. Then you have a bigger market to sell your products. Then it will reduce your dependence on our existing domestic markets. Stabilize seasonal market fluctuations, because season can be different. If you're an umbrella company, you are exporting umbrellas, rainy seasons are different in different countries, so you will have a demand almost in a major portion of the year. So it stabilizes seasonal market fluctuations, enhance potential for corporate expansion, sell excess production capacity. Your plant capacity is very high, so but your goods are not much. The domestic market is not sufficient to consume those produced by you that much quantity. Then you can export them so that all your product produced goods can be sold out. Okay, now coming to the type of exporting. Okay, we want to export our goods and services to other countries. What are all the various types? It can be a direct exporting or an indirect exporting. Direct exporting means sale of goods abroad without involving middlemen. Directly you are selling your goods, no middlemen. In case of direct exporting, a firm itself undertakes selling its products overseas and is responsible for dealing with foreign firms directly. Okay, so we have similarly here also so many companies, instead of engaging the middlemen, they open their offices or small branches or retail outlets in the other country and sell their products. In India we have so many companies like that, Dell, HP, all these things, they opened their office here and they are doing the direct exporting business. Indirect exporting means sale of goods abroad through middlemen. There you will be engaging some middlemen in that country or here to help you in exporting your products. Indirect export involves using the help of independent middlemen and sales intermediates that take the responsibility of sending the products to foreign countries. So basically a middleman, it can be the individual or it can be a firm, it can be some organizations or involved in the exporting, then it is called a indirect exporting. Commission agents, export management companies, logistic companies, all these comes under this category. So this is how you can do the exporting business. Next topic is direct foreign investing. So then what are all the investing methods in the foreign countries? If for an international entrepreneur, how he can do the investment in the foreign companies in their country, in the other countries. A foreign direct investment is an investment made by a firm or individual from one country into business interests located in another country. Generally, FDI takes place when an inventor establishes foreign business operations or acquires foreign business assets in a foreign company. For example, if you see in the Reliance Industries, recently so many foreign companies like Saudi Aramco invested in the Reliance Petrochemicals. Then Facebook invested money in the Reliance Jio, Reliance Communication Network. So you can invest in the businesses of foreign companies in their country that is called direct foreign investing. There are again in this there are various methods to invest and to acquire the because you are investing means you have become a partner, you are a shareholder in that business. Once you become a shareholder, you will get some rights. So how much you can invest, what is the limit of investment, what are the rights you have, all those things. There are various types. It can be horizontal direct investment. Refers to the investor establishing the same type of business operation in a foreign country as it operates in its home country. For example, cell phone provider based in the United States opening stores in China. For example, similarly, Suzuki is a car company. They invested in our Indian car company Maruti. So same type of business we are investing, that is called horizontal foreign direct investment. A vertical investment means if you are investing in a ancillary or in the chain, either at higher level or lower level related products or services, then it can be a vertical investment. It is one in which different but related business activities from the investor's main business are established or acquired in a foreign country, such as when a manufacturing company acquires an interest in a foreign company that supplies parts of raw materials required for the manufacturing company to make its products. For example, if you see car requires several parts, tires, let us say Maruti Suzuki cars, they require some tires for their cars. So there are some car manufacturing companies like Apollo, Seat, etc. In other countries also there may be a car tire manufacturing company, and if they say that tires or that rubber or that tires, whatever it may be, so this car company invest or as a partner in that rubber or tire company, then it is a vertical investment. It is related but not directly related in the chain, it is at a different level. That is called the vertical investment. Then a conglomerate type, it may not be nothing related to this one. A conglomerate type of foreign direct investment is one where a company or individual makes a foreign investment in a business that is unrelated to its existing business in the home country. Since this type of investment involves entering an industry in which the investor has no previous experience, it often makes the form of a joint venture with a foreign company already operating in the industry. Okay, so if it is like that, we can see actually Wipro is in so many businesses. They are in the software, they are in the soaps, they are in the bulbs, like that, different industries. So if they invest in some other unrelated business in foreign country, then it is a conglomerate type. Similarly, if Infosys invest money in some real estate company in another country, it can be a conglomerate type of investment, foreign investment. So these are all the various investment, foreign direct investment types. What are the benefits of foreign direct investment? It offers advantages to both the investor and the foreign host country. Okay, so there are advantages and disadvantages with the foreign direct investment, both to the investor as well as to the host country. These incentives encourage both parties to engage in and allow FDI. Benefits for businesses: market diversity. So if you want to invest in a foreign country, what are your benefits? Market diversification. Tax incentives. Many foreign countries allow to attract the foreign investment, they give some tax concessions. Lower labor costs may be there. Well, that's why many American countries are investing in India, China, Bangladesh, Pakistan. Why? Because here labor is cheap. Our governments are giving them incentives in tax, etc. Preferential tariffs, subsidies they give, diversification for your business. So these are all the benefits to a company which is planning for FDI. Whereas for that country, for example, an American company is investing in India. Okay, like that Flipkart is investing in Jio, Suzuki is investing in Maruti. Then what is benefit to this country for India when foreign countries are investing? Or if you are investing in some American company or Chinese company or African company, what is benefit to that country because of your investment? So it is an economic stimulation. Means in that country there may not be many private investors, or even that country don't have that much money to invest, capital to invest. So your investment will stimulate the economy there. Development of human capital. Okay, so because of your company, the people there may learn so many new skills. They may have better salaries, better wages, more employment, then improves their standard of living, improve their technical skill. Also, a human capital development happens in that country. Increase in employment, access to management expertise. For example, if you see recently Infosys CEO is some foreigner. So like that, you can get the management, consultancy, advice, expertise from other countries. Skills and technology. So these are all the various benefits for the host country by allowing foreign. Amazon is invested in India. They have their own factories in Hyderabad, godowns, etc. So it created a lot of employment. It brought a lot of technology to India. All these are benefit to India. So for businesses, most of these benefits are based on cost cutting and lowering risk. Mainly business will see for profits, less cost, more profits, then it will go for the FDI. That is the main motivation factor for the business. And for the host countries, they benefit or many economic and social benefits. So they look into those aspects. But there are what are the disadvantages? Despite many benefits, there are still two main disadvantages, such as displacement of local businesses. Yeah, because of this foreign direct investment, the domestic business in their host country, small businesses, and because of competition and etc., they will be lose their market share. See, because of Amazon entering India, so many retail business people lost their business. So that is a bigger issue. That's why they will not allow foreign direct investment in all fields, all businesses. Profit repatriation, and whatever profits are earned by Amazon, they will be taken back to their host, their own country like America, and so the host country will lose lot of capital, money, profits. So these are all the disadvantages. That's why all the countries will not allow foreign direct investment in all the businesses. The entry of large firms such as Walmart may displace local businesses. Walmart is often criticized Walmart for driving out local businesses that cannot compete with its lower prices. In the case of profit repatriation, the primary concern is that firms will not reinvest profits back into the host country. This leads to large capital outflows from the host country. As a result, many countries have regulations limiting foreign direct investment. So these are all the various advantages, disadvantages, and other issues related to the foreign direct investment. The last topic in this lecture is venture capital. So we saw a business requires funding, finance from investment. So what are all its various sources of funding? All that we have studied in the previous lectures. Venture capital is a type of funding source for the entrepreneurs. Let us see what it is. It is a private or institutional investment made into early stage startup companies. So, a private investment by some firms or individuals having money into a early stage or new startup companies is called venture capital, means investing in the new ventures, new enterprises is called venture capital. Startup companies with a potential to grow need a certain amount of investment. Wealthy investors like to invest their capital in such businesses with a long term growth perspective. This capital is known as venture capital, also referred to as risk capital, and investors are called venture capitalists. So, a wealthy investor will be looking for increasing his wealth, so he will identify the startups which have potential to expand their business. See, many of the companies started like that. Amazon, all these things are Reliance. There are startup companies once upon a time. So some people invested in that and they became very wealthy people. So if you invest in a early stage or startup companies, your wealth, then you are called a venture capitalist. Features of venture capital investments: high risk, because they are startup companies, we don't know whether they will grow or they will vanish. Their history, they don't have much history because they are startup, so there is a high risk. Lack of liquidity, you cannot entry or exit so easily, take out your money from that because there will not be buyers available. Long term horizon, they took sometimes long term to get your capital back or profits. Equity participation and capital gains, or venture capital investments are made in innovative projects. Suppliers of venture capital participate in the management of the company also. So not only they invest in money, they also participate in the management, decision, management, control of the business. Methods of venture capital financing. There are again different methods. Through equity, means to become by becoming partners, participating debentures, buying their debentures, or through that is called debt, loans, etc., and conditional loan. So these are all the various methods of venture capital financing. Types of venture capital funding: seed capital, startup capital, early stage capital, expansion capital, late stage capital, and bridge financing. Seed capital is for preparing the feasibility studies, for to start the venture, to acquire the offices, to acquire some basic equipment, to make a basic organization structure, to hire some employees. What is the money required? Investing in that is called seed capital. Then startup capital, launching products, starting the network distribution of your products to the retailers, start selling your product. All these things, startup capital. Early stage capital, expansion capital. Next, if you want to, you see that your business is going to success, you want to expand into a other localities, other countries, other states geographically, then you require again some capital. So investing money at that stage is expansion capital. Late stage capital, and means when they want to, after reaching some stage, the some partners want to exit that business who are invested at the seed capital level or startup capital level, they want to exit after some years. Then if you want to buy that their shares, etc., then that is called late stage. You are entering into the business, that business, after some time when it became a success. Okay, so your risk may not be that much, your profits may not be that much. So that is the late stage capital. And budget financing, financing for their assets, fixed assets or working capital, etc. That is, if you are investing in that money, that is called budget financing. So these are all the various types of venture capital funding. What are the advantages of venture capital? For a venture capitalist, what are the advantages? They bring wealth and experience to the company. What is the advantage of because of this venture capital? They bring the wealth and expertise to the company. Large sum of equity finance can be provided, so they can attract based on the potential. We banks, all financial institutions may not provide you that much money because they have their own limitations. So these venture capitalists, if you're really able to convince them, you can get a lot of funding. Business does not stand the obligation to repay the money, whereas if you take from financial institutions, banks, because basically that is a debt, a loan instrument, borrowing, there you have to pay principal plus interest. Here, because you are taking them as equity partners, they will share your profits and losses. You need not pay compulsorily some amount to them. In addition to capital, it provides valuable information, resources, technical assistance to make a business successful. Then, what are the disadvantages of venture capital? As investors become part owners, they automate autonomy and control of the founder is lost. So you have started your business. You want freedom, but once you take some venture capitalist as your partners because of their money, then they will also try to control your business. So you will lose your freedom as a owner of the business. It is a lengthy and complex process. It is an uncertain form of financing. Uncertain. And sometimes if you go to banks, because government promotes entrepreneurs, you definitely will get some loan. There is no rule that you may not get any venture capitalist. So it is very uncertain. Benefit from such finance can be realized in long run only. So these are all the some disadvantages with venture capital. So in this lecture, we have studied how to make a business plan, what are all the various components of business plan, feasibility study, preparation of project report, then international opportunities, exporting business, foreign direct investment, venture capital. All the information, most of the information related to a entrepreneur to start and get success in the business, all are covered in this lecture and in the previous two lectures. Thank you.